saying it because so far I think I can't do anything but agree. I also want to point out that we did say that it's common functions, so Columbia, you're right on target. It's all about management, and what Mike just got through saying, I'll get a little bit more direct on that. Two other colleagues and I just spent about 3 years with a 1,000-person organization inside of the DoD organization, combination of military and civilian types contractors. And this precisely goes back to something we developed, I have to say, back in 2000. There's 4 pillars, we call them, four legs of the stool. If the leadership is committed and really supports what you're trying to do and understands it, and then they authorize the managers to get the organizational processes, forums, and rewards, recognitions in place, and enable it all with good technology as it's changing, you will grow a learning environment which goes beyond simply the individual, it's the whole organization, because that's the end objective of it. All the things that Mike just went through in terms of orienting CEOs, absolutely. When you're working with military organizations, what happens to you is about 18 months in, you change commanders, you go to the change of command, and then you start relearning everything. And even though that person coming in maybe was there as the vice commander, they got their own way, they got to make their footprint. So it's a constant reiteration. But these competencies, I think, really do go back to the basic. It is about managing, and in managing, depending on what level you're at, those principles remain. The difference is the one that started with lots of us. Doug brought it up. What's a universal worker? What's a knowledge worker? And that is, how do we get it to the place that it is a learning environment that when people come in, and one of the workshops was about culture. What is culture? It's the way we do things around here. Well, if the way we do things around here is to challenge whether what we're doing every day at our desk is the best way, where's it coming from? What do I do to it? Who do I send it to? How do they need it? You're beginning to get to that ultimate objective. So I think we're going to find there's a lot of competencies that are already been documented and should be in the graduate.
I wanted to agree with what Mike said and amplify a little bit on that. In addition to knowing the knowledge, tools, and processes and approaches, an important thing for any senior leader is to actually model the behavior so that other people will follow. I've seen that to be the most powerful thing. Communicating in some real way, not through official corporate speak or through ghost writers or things that everybody tunes out, but communicating in their own voice regularly, actually inspecting and following up on things. If they want something to happen, actually making that clear. And then the notion of being a supportive leader, instead of the leader who tells what to do or is very authoritarian, but the notion of one who actually turns that around and says, I'm here to serve everyone else, and in doing that.
I think there's something more on that, Stan, if you could elaborate on that, because I'm not sure I agree with the managing piece as strongly as you're putting it across. I'm thinking that a lot of the younger generation that's coming into the workforce right now is not really that interested in being managed. They're really much more interested in being able to be given a small space in which they learn, and then you broaden that space and increase their scope of being able to make decisions. And they're so much more empowered, and they love working for you in the sense of a supportive leader. Is there anything you can speak to the generations and how there's this shift that's happening about managing versus enabling and creating that space in which people can work? Yeah, to your point of the new way of working.
Yeah, I think that that leadership that I was saying is different than traditional management. It's the notion of serving rather than supervising.
Right.
And I think that's what people are looking for. If they sense that their leader is someone who's actually going to help them, who's actually doing some of the same things that they're asking them to do, and actually understands the things rather than being clueless. I mean, if you ever heard a senior leader talk in front of a group, if there were young people there, and if they were making some remark about, oh, I don't know anything about this Facebook or Twitter, that's not a good message for people.
Cool.
It'd be much better if they saw them actively using it or asking other people, how do you use it, how can I use it better, and learning from them. That would be a good model.
Mm-hmm. Meg Weekly has a great term. She says moving from hero to host.
Jacqueline Urban, U.S. Green Battlefield Council. I don't know if I'm finding this as useful, because I've taken instructional design courses. We talk about what does it mean to be a leader, strategic, advocate, teacher, same concept of these different levels. I did multimedia, so I would agree with, I can't remember your name.
Francesco.
Yeah, Francesca said earlier where, I mean, this has already been resolved as far as those type of competencies of, are you a leader? Are you a strategic person who's going to be, you know, doing that work? I mean, what I was hoping for best practices lessons learned would be more along the lines of when it comes to knowledge management, what is it that you are coming against? I mean, for instance, with me, the IT department's version of what a repository means is completely different from what I mean as a repository. Like that definitions is a huge thing that I think the person who's trying to get a knowledge management plan in place needs to address. Like that's what I'm hoping to hear more personally.
I can give you four points along that line. First, let me step back for a second. When CKOs were building systems and we were controlling systems, you know, and knowledge directors were controlling, the problem there was not the control. That was the right thing to do at that time. It's just that the world shifted with people going, wow, you know, now I want to be in control of my own destiny. And with social networking collaboration tools, it allowed them that opportunity. So the shift now in CKOs or knowledge directors is you're not really in control anymore. Your role is to manage and guide and to empower the knowledge workers. So you've got to give them the tools that make them more productive. You've got to help them communicate more effectively. So now your 4 points, Jacqueline, was one, I think you've got to see them develop an overall framework that guides knowledge management. That's number one. If they don't have a framework, it's a map. You can't get there from here if you don't have a map.